Hello adventurers, and welcome back to my channel. I have some interesting things to share with you. So my dad's been working on his van and it's coming along great. And I'm going to show you something in a minute that's inside his van, but I'm also going to talk to you about something else. Now, a few weeks ago, I did a video where I shared with you my new refrigerator for my tiny van. And I needed a new fridge because, well, mine basically was trying to die, and I was fortunate enough that SetPower actually sent me one, but a lot of you had some questions after, and so I wanted to clarify a few of those things and talk to you about SetPower in general and why I like their brand, but also the variety that they have. And this is not a sponsored post or anything like that. This is just my legitimate opinion, so if you're interested in finding out more about a few interesting things, stick around. We're going to start off with Dad's van, and I want to show you something kind of fun. It's a behind the scenes look. You've been waiting on updates. Well, I have an update for you. Okay, we're gonna go inside, but I'll show you all of this on a different video. We're interested in what's inside this cabinet right now. In fact, inside this little cabinet right here, and I'm gonna keep it from falling, there is something really interesting. Okay, inside here is where my dad's refrigerator is going to live. Now, if you've been watching my channel for a while, you've probably seen that I did an unboxing and I also did a test of this SetPower fridge. This one is the big boy. This is the biggest one that they have. It's a refrigerator and freezer, and I'm really excited to see this after he gets it out and about, but he's made a home for it. And I kind of wanted to show you what that home looks like, but also tell you that this is cool because since it's a dual zone, you can have refrigerator, freezer, or fridge, freezer. And it's kind of a larger style unit. So in a big van like Dad has, this is perfect. So why did I show you that? Well, the reason why I showed you that is because one of the things that I noticed whenever I was looking for a fridge was how many different kinds that they genuinely do have out there. And as I kind of scrolled around looking for one that would work for me, I was just kind of overwhelmed by the amount of options and then also the space, because until you're really in the space, you don't have a clue as to what's going to work for you unless you want to build around it. And so I knew that I had a smaller space, so something like that wouldn't work, but I knew that they had other options. And so I ended up finding one that worked better for me. And I noticed that on the website, there's tons of different specs, so you can kind of measure it out. And one of the tips that I have for you guys is, if you are looking for an appliance, go on there and find the specs, and then take yourself either like a piece of cardboard or like a piece of wood and cut them out to those specs and just put them in your van, and then move them around to figure out where it works best for you, and then kind of think about your needs. For example, I started off in my van with my layout being completely different than what it is now. I had a little shelf that would come in as you would come in from my driver's side. I quickly learned that that was a good way for me to sneak into the back real quick because I didn't want to be detected and seen, because I was trying to be a bit more stealthy. And so I wanted to do that. Well, in doing that, I figured out that I could put a refrigerator right by my door, so it was super easy to access. However, whenever I changed my plan because I wanted to remove my front seat so I could just move to the back from the front, especially on bad days, then I quickly figured out that the fridge I had no longer would fit. Now, fortunately for me, I had previously purchased, before I had the SetPower fridge, a smaller fridge, so I just put it in there and went about my business, and it's lasted me quite a while. However, it wasn't quite as rugged and durable as the SetPower was. It didn't have the coating and things like that that the SetPower does, so it was more easy to scratch. And ultimately, one of the things that I learned about my fridge is it also was easier to discolor. So with that said, let's go talk about what happened to the fridge that I took out that I replaced with the smaller one. Don't worry guys, I still have it. Yep. In fact, I put it in storage because I thought if I ever changed out my layout in my van again and I wanted to go back to that other layout, I would still have it. But it was a little bit too big for the layout that I ended up with, so instead I ended up with that other fridge. Now again, there's nothing wrong with the other fridge that I put in there until it started to not working. And that took a while, so I was pretty pleased with it. However, whenever SetPower reached out and they saw that I was having problems and they wanted to send me the smaller fridge, I was like, oh my gosh, this is perfect, because again, I really liked the brand, so I wanted to get back to it, and I was about to go invest in one anyway. So I was over the moon, basically. But a lot of people reached out after my video that I talked about that fridge and said, what did you do with the other fridge? And did it really work that well? Well, for the first year of my travel almost, I had the SetPower fridge, and I loved it because it's tall enough where I can like stick full 2-liter sodas in there. I could stack all my food up. I can do all sorts of different things in the space. And I'm going to show you what it looks like in just a second so you can see the difference. In fact, I'm going to bring both of the SetPower fridges out, not including my dad's because it's just so big, but I'm going to show you both of the ones that I have functioned with or will be functioning with so we can kind of get a comparison. But one of the other things that I wanted to tell you guys is don't worry, this fridge actually is about to have a whole new life, and I'm going to tell you more about that in just a minute. But first, let's get the fridge out and look at it. It's not in perfect shape. It's been in my van. It's gotten used and abused a little bit, but in the time that I used and abused it, it certainly was a wonderful, wonderful option for me in the van. Now the handle here opens wide up, and this is the AJ40. You can see there's tons of room inside, and it even has this little basket device where the divider or the basket itself can come out, and it has a little light that turns on whenever you're using it. So all in all, we had some great adventures. And I was thinking, you know, since I'm probably not going to change my van layout ever again, and because I have a reliable fridge that I am happy with, I wanted to find this one a home. And so I have some exciting news. This is actually going to be living in Arizona with Aussie Van Man. His refrigerator just bit the bullet and died. And I don't think that it is a good thing to not have a fridge in a van, especially whenever you're in such heat. And so I told him, I was like, hey, if you'll come and pick it up, it's yours. And that way he doesn't have to be out the expense of getting another refrigerator, because it can be very difficult. And this fridge is actually about the same size as the one that he had in his van, so this will be a good replacement, and it has some cool features to it. So I'm kind of going to walk you through what the features are on this, and then he will have this in his van, and if he wants to share more, he can, but I wanted you guys to see the difference between this one and the smaller one, because there are definitely some similarities and definitely some differences, but a lot of you who I know reached out and said that the little one wouldn't be quite the right size for you. I thought I can show you the AJ40 once again and kind of let you see what some of my favorite things about this one are, and you know, maybe this will be more about what you're kind of looking for. So here we go. Starting off, all SetPower fridges have this little panel right here somewhere in them. And I really appreciate this because not only does it tell you the recommended temperature in both Celsius and Fahrenheit for each item, but it also gives you some of the information about the fridge right here on the main panel. Now the AJ40 also has this little connector strap, which allows it to stay upright with the handle instead of plopping over, which I really appreciate. And then again, we discussed there are 3 separate panels, and I actually need to clean this guy out because it's been sitting out in storage. So let's talk about these panels. The 3 panels that they have here. This one is actually not quite as deep. This one is much deeper. In these sections right here, you can put a full 2-liter soda upright and still close the lid, no problem. You can also put taller bottles of wine, just for a reference. That kind of gives you an idea as to how tall it is. But if you decide to take this little piece out, you can have a storage area, and let me take these boxes out. These have like the cords and things in them. This area right here is large enough where you can put like a full thing of eggs in here. And I did actually do that a couple of times whenever I was traveling, especially whenever I would want to make breakfasts. But also this entire compartment also comes out. It's a little harder with one hand, but you can see it's a very deep wire basket, so you can take your things out and load them and then stick them in here, and that makes it a little easier to load, or you can just load them directly in. Now again, this thing's been sitting in storage, so I'm going to clean it out really nicely and everything, make sure there's no dust or weirdness in there. I'm going to check everything out when it comes to the power cords and all of that, just because when you store things, you need to make sure you check them. And I've always said, test things at base camp if you have one. That way, before you take them out, you can make sure that they're good to go. In this case, they're going to be taken out by somebody else, so I definitely want to make sure if I'm going to give it to him that it works correctly, considering his issues with his other fridge especially. So let's check it out. First off, we're going to test out the 12 volt, and this is the plug that I typically use, but I am also going to check out the other one. Now, the nice thing about this is a universal connector, so if for some reason this does not work, we can try another cord to see if it's that cord. I don't think this is going to be a problem. When I put it in storage, it was still working fine, so we're going to go right into the side over here. Now there's also a fuse on the side that you can clearly see. It's just a regular 15 amp fuse. So if something ever goes wrong with your fridge, check the fuse first. But I'm gonna go ahead and plug this in, and then we're going to plug it into a tried and trusty new power station that we've been using to test out a lot of different equipment. I'm gonna do a full review on that power station on another video, but let's plug her in. Okay, here we go into the socket, and then we push the button to turn it on, and she should start to work. Yep, starting to work. It's pulling 1 watt right now. Now this will go up higher because it needs to regulate first. So let's go see if the power is on the fridge. Yep, sure is. So I have it on eco mode. I have it turned down, but I'm probably going to go ahead and, let's see, I believe that on this one you hold it and then you can go down. It's set for 32 degrees. It has eco and max mode here. Most of the SetPowers do have different options. It comes across really weird on the camera, but it is not flickering in person. So it is turned on. And there you go, 31 watts. That's about average for this guy. It runs about that whenever the compressor is on. Sometimes it'll spike up to about 40 if it's super, super hot, but 31 watts. At that rate, we could go for 12 hours because there's only 33% on this battery right now. But 12 hours on 33%. So if you were to estimate that, then you could definitely get a few days use out of this one power station when using this particular refrigerator. Now again, it's gonna go up and down on the watts that's pulling because it's freshly turned on and it's super hot. So it should regulate down, and then after the compressor goes off, it'll go down to like 1 or 2 running watts, and then about once or twice an hour the compressor turns on automatically. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna let it rock for a few minutes, make sure that the temperature is in fact dropping and that the compressor is doing its job. That's what you do whenever you're testing something, just make sure everything gets cold like it's supposed to. And so I'll check back with you guys in just a few minutes, but I hope that also answers the question of what happened to the fridge. I do this with a lot of the products that I either have or that I test, because as I kind of have gone through them and either done a review or I've used them and I can't use them anymore because of X, Y, or Z reasons, I try to find them a new home. So in this case, I'm super happy that that home is going to be one of my van life friends. I also try to give things to like family members if they're wanting to build out things. And so I hope that answers that question also. But we're gonna give this a few minutes. We'll see how long it takes. Now, something that I suggest you guys do if you do put something in storage that I did not with this, and I should have, I've learned this kind of after the fact, is whenever you're taking the refrigerator and it goes from the cold to the warm, make sure that you open the refrigerator until it gets to like the hot temperature again, and that'll allow the moisture to escape, and then also wipe it down super, super good. I did not do that. Instead, I just put the stuff back in it and I let it come to room temperature, and I didn't think about the fact that I had I had a can in there. It was just like an empty can that I was going to throw away, and I didn't. And so the can itself held the moisture, and so it oxidized. So I'm gonna have to wipe out a tiny bit of rust that I left in there because, you know, Brock doesn't deserve that. But you live, you learn, you find lessons along the way, and you share them with others. And so that is my lesson to you guys. If you ever put something like this in storage, whether it's that you're going to be out of your van for just a little while, or you're going to be off the road for a little bit, for everyone who doesn't travel full time, just crack the top, leave it open for a little bit. Ooh, speaking of which, light. Yes. Okay, I really am going to leave it alone now so it can cool off. I can already feel the top is much cooler, so it is definitely working. Ooh, Max definitely makes a difference. Max pulled it up to 86 watts. So eco mode is usually what I run on just because it's better for your overall batteries. But if you need to get it cool in a fast pinch, this definitely will do it. So I would suggest that if you're trying to cool it down before you take it somewhere, if you have access to a regular home plug, be it at your house, a hotel, a campsite, wherever, plug it in, turn it on to max. It'll get you cooler faster. And then whenever you plug it into your power station, then put it on eco mode. This is what it sounds like when it's running in max. Now, another thing that I want to share about the compressor itself, because a lot of people ask, is it loud? The compressor on this one is super quiet. And on top of that, it doesn't go the whole time. So it kind of turns on and off. And so if you're in super hot conditions, it's going to run more frequently than if you're in cooler conditions. So if you're on just like an average day that's like 80 degrees, we'll say 80 because that seems to be the summertime norm for most people, unless you're in like super hot places like Texas or Arizona. Now, in 80 degrees, it's going to turn on a couple times per hour. If you're in 115, it's gonna run a little bit more. Now, if you're running that max, that means it's gonna take a lot more of your power. Now, fortunately, Brock has solar panels on his roof, and also he has the ability to take his fridge inside so that his compressor doesn't have to run all day long while he's at work. So he usually takes it in to keep his food cool and not have to kill his compressor, and I think that that's really wise. So if you have the ability to do any of these things, or you happen to get a campsite where there is a plug-in power, you can actually do this, and then it takes a lot less of your power, but also makes the compressor kick on and off a little bit less. So just stuff to kind of think about. And while that compressor is doing the compressor thing, getting it to where it needs to be, I'm just going to take some Clorox wipes and make sure I give it a good once over on all the different little moving parts, and that way it can be nice and clean and tidy. Okay, so we made it to 59 degrees, which normally isn't that huge of a jump, but when it went down from where it was to where it is, look at this. Even at 59 degrees, you're starting to get frost, so that is super good. So I'm gonna turn this off so that I can continue cleaning it, because otherwise I'm just gonna end up sticking to the sides. But I think you can see why I like this one. It goes fast. So yeah, everything is working great. So I'm just gonna get it all ready for Brock. And then whenever he comes and picks it up, then you can learn a little bit more of it over on his channel. But after I finish cleaning it up, I wanna show you the difference in size. Now, the other fridge that I have is more similar to the one that I had in my van previous. So you'll be able to see just how big of a difference that the size itself makes. And why this guy right here wouldn't fit, because the one that I'm moving into the van, again, a little tiny bit shorter, but just a little bit shorter than the one I just pulled out, and it fit perfectly. You'll understand when you see it, but I'm gonna finish this up first. I've got some Cloroxing to do, and then, well, yeah, we'll just talk about it then. Okay, so now let's talk about what's in these boxes. I have handles here. I kept those because even though I didn't need them, I thought at some point they might be needed. So I still have them with all of the hardware. It's all in here. So I have the additional paperwork that goes with the original fridge. I keep all of that just in case. And then in this one, I actually have the converter, and this just plugs into the 12 volt and then goes into the wall. So that's all going to be there for him also. So he can take this piece in with him whenever he goes to work, so he can plug it in. And then these, if he wants to install them, he can, just to make it a little bit easier. That's up to him. If not, they'll be his. He can dispose of them if he wants to. But all in all, it's clean, it's ready to go. Okay, now let's compare the two. On the right, you have the new one that I'll be using in my van, and on the left, you have the one that I'm gonna be giving to Brock. I think you can see the size difference. Width-wise, they're about the same. They don't look like it because this one kind of tapers inward, but it only tapers inward a little tiny bit. It looks like it tapers in a little bit more than it actually does based on like the design of it. But they're both pretty square at the bottom. But you can see the height makes all the difference in the world here. And yeah, these are both by SetPower. On mine, I have a power and then just a toggle switch for the temperature. And then on this one, it has the max and the eco mode. So this one, because it's a little bit larger, has those options there available. But otherwise, the display is very similar. This one vents on the side and also the back. And this one vents in a slightly more rounded pattern around the edge. This one has the fuse and then also the plug-in, where this one only has the plug-in, but it does have a plug cover on this one, which is a newer model. This one has the molded handles, and then it also has the strap downs so that you can add straps if you need to secure it. This one has the capability of adding handles or keeping it without. This one has a handle on the end and it comes up like this. And this one has a handle and it opens more like this. The smaller one you can hinge from either side, whereas the larger one only hinges from one side. Now, in comparison to my dad's model, on the other hand, the larger unit you can hinge from both sides on both portions. Again, it's a split. So you can have freezer, freezer, fridge, fridge, or freezer, fridge. And you can make it where one goes up one way and one goes up the other way, or they can both go up from the same direction. Also, the handles are more molded on that one as well to make it a bigger, more impactful up and down. Now, I will say this, the larger one also has vents more like this newer, smaller one. And so, they've taken different pieces that have worked and they've modified them to different units. And that's why I really appreciated trying out different versions of SetPower and why I wanted to share this with you, because overall, they all have a similar plug. So the plug itself, similar from kind to kind, from style to style, from size to size. But the little things are what vary. So like, for example, in the big guy right here, we have the basket system. Well, guess what? The larger one, you also have a basket system. In the smaller one, the basket system doesn't really work because there's just not enough space on there for all the extra stuff. But it gives you the option to either use it or not use it. Now, if you're interested in seeing a full review of this particular unit or the smaller unit or the way bigger unit, I do have videos for all of those on my channel. I implore you to go check them out so you can find out a little bit more. But for now, I'm gonna get the rest of this all packed up and ready for Brock, and then give him a call and say, hey, are you coming to get this thing? I took it out of storage for you. Remember, guys, we're not here for a long time, but we are here for a good time. Finding meaningful solutions that work in our vans, whether it's something larger or something smaller, is always a good time, because then you can have fresh food. You can have deliciousness. You can have a cold water on a hot day. And, well, we all have different needs, so they have lots of different styles and options. I hope this is helpful, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!